Hello and welcome to another edition of Hops and Houses. I'm Robert Ring.
And I'm Valerie Crowell.
And today we are at Epidemic Ales. We've come here many times, and now we have a great videographer, Joseph Blackman, with us, and we're here to get a good shot of Hops and Houses at Epidemic Ales.
Yeah, because it tends to be a little noisy in here.
Yeah.
It's a very popular place. We're on a Wednesday afternoon right now, and it's already filling up. It's
a beer bar, so like coming here on a Saturday afternoon was not the best.
Yeah, that was not our best play, but more importantly, they make great beer, and that's why people come here.
Exactly. Yeah.
Speaking of,
we have several in front of us.
yeah, we both have the same thing in our glass, mostly because the beer maker here, or brewmaster, wrong word.
We're simple people. You can call him a beer maker.
Yeah, the dude that makes beer here. Won gold medal at San Francisco Beer Festival with his lager at the end of the world. So anything that has the end of the world in it, I like. And we'll take it one step further. What he did was from that base, he made Limelight lager, which is a lager with a little lime and a little salt in it. And it's delicious. It's
really
so good we both have it, and which is unusual. You know, we never both have the same beer.
Yeah.
But more importantly, it's 100 degrees outside, so this is what you want to be drinking.
It's really refreshing.
Yeah.
And when she got it, I was like really troubled because, you know, we can't talk about the same beer on the podcast. And I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to order this beer, and then I'm going to order another one to talk about on the podcast. So today we're talking about
But this one is so good.
It's so good
That we're talking about.
I could not order it. So it's really, really delicious. The lager, it's a very light lager, as you can see if I hold it up to the light a little bit. You know, it's almost like a pilsner, but it's like there's not as much body to it. Like
No.
It's just really
It's a good,
delicious.
It's 100 degrees outside. I'm going to have a beer.
It's a great 100-degree outside beer.
Yeah, and it's 100 degrees outside. So there you have it.
Cool. Well, let's chat about one more beer real quick. Why don't you tell us what that one is?
Well, this one of my favorite desserts is pineapple upside down cake. And this is called the Pineapple Upside Down Cake, and it is a hazy pale ale. And I had it last time I was here, and it's so good I ordered it again. It's
really good. I've had it before. I got this Affliction Amber Ale, which I can talk about in a couple of minutes after we dive into a little bit of real estate. I'm a little bit moved off of hazy IPAs for a while, so it's hard for me to jump into them. That one I really like, though.
Yeah.
So this is
Well, this one's got a lot of vanilla in it too.
It does. It's really flavorful.
Yeah, it's a beautiful beer.
So this is the next beer I'll be talking about. You can see much darker amber ale.
Well, it's an amber.
Yeah.
But, you know, I kind of messed him up. He was Mr. IPA, hazy. And
and you got me onto like
Pilsners and lagers and pale ales and all that.
Kolsch is like my new favorite beer.
I love Kolsch.
Yeah.
I had Kolsch the other night.
Yeah.
So, actually, I had several the other night.
So we both love really good beer. We've established this. What's the other thing that we love and we love talking about?
Real estate.
Oh, okay, great. What should we discuss today?
Well, I'm trying to figure out, maybe you can help me. Am I a realtor with a drinking problem or a beer drinker with a real estate problem?
Yeah, that's right. We're alcoholics with a real estate problem, something like that, right?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
So, real estate's been a little wild this year, just a tad.
It's been kind of a roller coaster.
It has been, and if you are not with your seat in a firm upright position, you're going to get knocked around this year.
Totally.
Totally.
I mean, tell us about what was happening earlier in the year. Everybody's heard stories of like 30 offers on one home, and not even a special home. It's just like there was this craze in the market because nobody was selling, their homes, and rates were super low, so everybody wanted to buy. I mean, we held an open house where we had to keep people out.
Right. There were so many people.
We had to have them stand in the line and social distance and sign COVID waiver forms and wear their masks. And I mean, I remember I was holding somebody's dog. There's 6 people in line. There's 3 parties in the house, and then we're handing out COVID waiver forms at the same time because, if something happens, now we can go back and say, okay, we got to call these people and tell them they were exposed to COVID at our house. And it's not like that, right?
They weren't.
Which they weren't. And it's not like that today. So we went from just craziness to what's happening right now. You put a house on the market. What's the activity like?
Well, I just put a fantastic home on the market. It was a condo, and it took a little time. It took me 29 days to get it into contract. I was expecting 30 days of marketing, so I just made it under my expectations, but it was...
But condos are let's talk about single-family homes, because you sold an absolute crap ton of single-family homes in the last few months. Valerie's been like #1 in her office for a long time now.
For crap ton.
Yeah, she even beat out groups. I mean, it's like, you know, in Keller Williams they rank people based on she's a solo agent, and then she placed higher than groups. It was in the month of July. I don't know. I know your August numbers were amazing. I don't know. I don't think they've come out with the stats.
No, the
where
stats
you
are
in the
not.
office. Yeah. But she's kicking ass. She's taking names. So tell us about a single-family home, because the condo market ebbs and flows. Like sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's not, and it can be totally different than the single-family market because people don't want as many condos as they do.
Well, yeah, that's the interesting thing. If you went back 2 years ago, prior to COVID, condos were hot because it was an easy way to get into the market.
Where were they hot, though? Everywhere?
But pretty much everywhere. You could sell a condo pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But what's happened since then is people want more space around it. It's like, oh, I can't take the kids to the park. I can't take the dog to the dog park. I need to put these guys in a backyard, and this thing isn't much bigger than a postage stamp. Now all of a sudden the condos aren't as hot as they were.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
You know, and it's like that's really what happened to the condo market.
Yeah.
And the truth be told, 2 years from now, nobody's going to be thinking about those things because we'll be past this thing finally.
Yeah.
And condos will pick back up with first-time buyers.
Yeah.
But right now, the millennials are just crushing the real estate market.
Yeah.
Because and it's new household formations that's doing it. Mm-hmm. You know, because
that's something we look at every year. There's a you look at demographics and in housing. They can assess based on the population,
right,
and age groups and so forth, who's entering the housing market, who's forming a household based on, you know, somebody got married, they're at the age where they have a job, they kind of know. And so housing starts have always been way too slow in California compared to the amount of people entering the housing market, and millennials are just exploding in it.
Yeah, they really are. We are building about 80,000 a year, and we need something like 1.2 or 1.4
million.
Yeah, I mean, that's how far behind we are, and that's what's putting so much pressure on this market right now. And then the secondary thing that's helping it run is the interest rates.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here, and there's a lot to talk about. But let's start with the fear of the market falling. You know, Chicken Little, the sky is falling, right? Let's talk about that, because let's say that the market crashes tomorrow, or let's say it just doesn't crash. Let's just say there's a slowdown in desire. People don't want to buy homes. Prices start to drop. Everybody's afraid of this. You know, what if homes don't sell for more than they are going for? You know, that everything's going to turn. Okay, so let's say that home values drop 10%. We have some numbers prepared for you. Valerie, tell us what would happen to your payment. And I should be probably telling you this, but Valerie did the homework. She beat me to it, so she's going to tell us. What would my mortgage payment look like if the housing market went down in value but rates went up? Because that's what would happen.
Well, the thing is, let's add to that over the last 50 years, the housing market has actually crashed once.
Okay.
So that was in 2007.
Yeah.
And we've recovered all of that. As a matter of fact, all-time high was quarter 3 of 2006, and it took us, an all-time low was quarter 1 of 2012. And as of 2019, as a country, and that's not even counting the Bay Area, which doesn't understand what the rest of the country does, the whole country was back in Q1 2019. Now, I remember doing some numbers for Walnut Creek in 2013, and a single-family home median sales price in May, I believe, I'm pretty sure it was an M month, so it was March or May, I'm going to say May because it was a little further down the line, was back to the high of Q3 of 2006 in Walnut Creek. That's how fast it recovered.
So when was that? When did the high... Sorry, say it again. I got a little lost there.
The following year. It took a year for it to go from the bottom back up to where it was before it started falling. Okay. So the falling took a while, but then it hit bottom, and it took, it took a few years to hit bottom, so it was like a sloping down, but it came back in like 11, 12, 13 months, something like that. It was really fast.
So let's talk about your payments, because this is a really important piece. People don't just buy a house and then sell it the next day. So it's not like you're trading a cryptocurrency where you really care about what the value does, you know, over the next 3 weeks. It's not very important. You know, my home value could go down to 0 tomorrow, and I really wouldn't care because I'm not selling it tomorrow. I would care if it went to 0 in well, I'm never going to sell that house. I actually never care what the value does, except when I'm refinancing it, to be honest. But let's talk about this because this is really important. So let's say I have some numbers on a $600,000 home, which I'll go over, and she's got some numbers on an $850,000 home. So if you have a $600,000 house and you get it today at an interest rate of like, 2.99%, let's say, you're just a touch under 3, right? And then let's say you don't want to buy that. Okay, so you wait. Now rates go up 1.5% because that's where they're headed. They're going to go up eventually. And if rates go up quickly, it could affect the home value market. We've seen this happen in the past. 2018 was a great example of this. So let's say that home values drop 10%, hypothetically, and rates go up to 4.5%. Okay, so we've established a couple of hypotheticals here. So now you're buying a house for $540,000, but you're paying 4.5% on your interest rate. Your payment is $140 more per month in the $540,000 scenario at 4.5% than it is at the $600,000 scenario at 2.99. So I would not, you cannot understate the value of low interest rates. And so if you're afraid of the market changing, you say, I'm going to wait, well, you're not going to do yourself any favors, to be honest, because the point at which you sell, you're going to have equity. Because most people hang on to their homes for 5 to 7 years, so you're going to gain equity over that time period. And by playing the timing game, I say never time a purchase where you lay your head down to rest. Where you go to sleep at night, that's not an investment that you time. What you need to look at really carefully with that purchase is, can you afford it and does it fit your family's needs? And those are two really important things, and that's what you're going to remember, because when you live there, you'll know if it's fitting your needs, and can you afford it, you'll be reminded every month on the first of the month when your mortgage statement comes in the mail. Right? So these are really important things to consider. And I think that a lot of fear comes around, fear in a decision comes around just a lack of knowledge, and that's what we're here to do. We're just here to give you the numbers, We're not going to take responsibility for what the market's going to do tomorrow, but we can give you good, solid advice and guidance on how to get into the market today in a way that's responsible and is going to serve you and your family, in the long run, in a good way.
Oh, absolutely. And I did the numbers at $850 because that tends to be what my price point average is, about $850. And if you put 20% down today, you're putting $170,000 down. And I figured the payment was going to end up around $3,325, something like that. Now, if the market falls off by 10%, that gets you down to $765,000. And by the way, the market's only done that once in the last 50 years. So if in fact it did it twice in 50 years within like 12 years of each other, then your payment would be your down payment would be $153,000. So you'd save $17,000 on the down payment. But your house payment, if the interest rate pops up too, your house payment goes up over $300. Now the thing is, with that difference is we don't live in the cost of the house. That's not where we live. We live in the house payment because that's what you budget with your family every month.
It is. It seriously is.
Yeah, you don't budget, okay, the house is worth, da-da-da today.
Where does the interest rate show up on your budget?
Exactly. It doesn't. It doesn't.
Oh, it doesn't? Okay, sorry.
Yeah. But that
Stupid
payment.
question.
Yeah, but that payment shows up.
Oh, it does? Yeah.
Every month. Yeah.
What do they call that? The nut?
Yeah.
Monthly nut.
Your monthly nut. Yeah.
How hard is it to crack your monthly nut? Well, harder at 4.5% with a 10% decrease. So I would say the message here is if you can afford to buy and it fits your family's goals, you should totally do it. Because getting onto a low cost of money is really incredible. And also it's historic. It could be that we don't see low interest rates like this for a really long time. I'm hopeful that we don't have some great international disaster again like COVID that cripples economies and forces governments to manipulate interest rates to a point where they're giving away money for free and lower the rate of inflation. But while we're here, it would be remiss of us not to tell you that you should probably buy a house and get a mortgage while the money's free. Yeah, and the money literally is free because if you got $100,000 in the bank right now, it would be devaluing at about almost 4% because that's the rate of inflation. It's the rate your money devalues every month. Or every, it's not like a timeline, but just right now it's the rate, it's annual. And mortgages are in the, high 2s, low 3s.
I don't ever want to hear the word devalue and my money in the same sentence again.
Right. So the biggest question really is not it's not the cost of money, because we know right now you can get money for less money than it costs just to let it sit in a checking account. The big question is cash flow, right? So you got to look at your income and go, can I afford a $3,500 a month payment. Okay, if I can afford a $3,500 a month payment, what can I use that for to buy a home? Well, you're probably looking at about $600,000 right now.
Yeah.
You know, it depends on your down payment, of course, and the loan program, but you know, you're going to rent anyway. So if you're spending $3,000 a month on rent, you're $36,000 a year. 3 years in, you've spent $100,000 already. You know, at what point do you go, I need to get off the rent train and get into the home ownership car?
Well, did your landlord send you a thank you note?
Did your landlord send you a thank you note for paying your rent?
For making them rich.
No, they send you a notice that there's going to be an increase.
Exactly. And, you know, I do get notices that there's going to be an increase in my mortgage, but that's because my taxes are impounded and taxes go up every year.
Yeah,
but
very
my payment,
slightly, by the way.
Yeah,
compared to rent, taxes go up very minor.
Yeah, it's
a few dollars.
Negligible.
Yeah.
But the actual principal and interest on my house has been the same for 15 years now.
So your payment will actually go down over time. And what I mean by that is
you'll
make more money, so it will feel like your payment's going down. Let's just take rent, for example. If you were to pay the same rent you were paying 5 years ago that you're paying today, if you're a renter, would you think that would be a really good deal? You would likely say yes if you're listening to this. So that's the same with the mortgage payment, but your mortgage payment doesn't really change. Sure, there's a negligible difference every year in property taxes, and that affects your payment a little bit. But because of the static nature of your 30-year fixed mortgage payment, you're going to have the same payment for a long time. So budget appropriately, but keep in mind that in like 5 years, your payment that you think might be like appropriate for your budget or just pushing it to get whatever you need right now, in 5 years it's not. It's going to feel like pretty inexpensive.
Right, because I don't know anybody that's like got a job that they're like, I'm happy, I'm just going to punch a ticket for the rest of my life. You know, everybody I know is always kind of jonesing around going, wonder if there's something better out there, a different opportunity, a more interesting opportunity, a startup. I know people have jumped off of really big companies and got involved in startups and stuff. And there's always a bump in income. People don't go backwards income.
No, and they get and you get raises too. People get raises.
Well, there's that.
All the time, I'll be in contract on a house, helping somebody get a mortgage. And they'll be like, "Hey, Robert, I got a raise. Congratulations, great." So we go get the info on their raise. People get raises. They don't get raises like they should, but on average, people get raises around 2 to 3% per year, right? And in a healthy real estate economy, and I've said this hundreds of times, I'll say it again and again and again. In a healthy real estate economy, incomes drive property values, not government-manipulated interest rates. So if you're making 2 to 3% more every year, then home values are going to rise just a little bit below that. That's a healthy real estate economy. We've not been in a healthy real estate economy for a very, very long time. I don't know if we've ever been in one, but you know, we see appreciation rates in the Bay Area of 7 to 10%, in some cases 20%, like in the last 12 months in some markets in the Bay Area because of COVID and the rates and all that kind of stuff. But people being able to spend more money should be driving up housing prices.
Right, exactly. And we had a little bump on that, but like we've said, if you've been watching us, we've said before, the people that were out of work were not homeowners. I mean, basically homeowners had the type of jobs where they were, for the most part, still going to work, and they were working remote and this and that and the other.
Yeah.
And so it really didn't affect that part of the market.
No, but another reason for that is that the service industry got hit the hardest.
They got whacked.
And if you're in the service industry, you're unfortunately in an income demographic where you're not in majority a homeowner. I mean, the Bay Area.
In the Bay Area.
In the Bay Area, it's a unique place. It's not like some other areas of the country where a job in the service industry doesn't always give you enough money to buy a home in the Bay Area. Now, that's not entirely true, just that statement on its own, because you can get into a house, but you can't go out into, like, let's say you live in Concord and you're in the service industry. You can't just walk down the street and buy an $800,000 home. Right? You've got to make a lot of money to buy an $800,000 home.
You've got to be really,
there's a lot
really
of jobs
good.
in the Bay Area that enable people to buy that. But the service industry gets the brunt of this housing crisis. And really what it is you talk about, like, I would call it an affordability gap. You know, you've got a gap in the demographic of people. You know, what you don't want to see, and unfortunately we've created as a society and through like how the government's controlled interest rates and managed monetary policy, is that they've created an affordability gap so that white collar and blue collar and service industry, I guess that falls into blue collar jobs, you know, they separate like this. It should be that everybody should be able to afford to buy a home, right? If you're working in a full-time job in an industry that, whatever it is, blue collar, white collar, doesn't matter. in an area close to where you work, right? You shouldn't have to drive for like an hour and a half to buy. And that's not so much the case, because with super low interest rates and with a really high concentration of high-paying jobs in the Bay Area, which is what we have, because we have, if California was a state on its own, we'd be like the 6th largest economy in the world, 5th largest economy, as a country.
Yeah.
As a country, and we're a state, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got the most profitable companies in the entire planet located in our backyard. We talk about Apple, Tesla, Google, right? And these people pay a lot of money for you to work there. And so when you're going out and you're making a service industry wage, which is probably around $50,000 or $60,000 a year, and you're competing with, you know, a tech wage, which is going to be double or in some cases triple that, they can go and they can bid up home prices a lot higher than you can afford to pay. So what you're relegated down to is getting really creative with what you buy, where you buy, whether you have a duplex, something with an in-law unit, or you buy a condo that's a little lower priced. I wouldn't say listen to this and give up hope, but it does make it more difficult. And that's an unfortunate reality just because of how we... And that wouldn't so much be the reality if California lightened their restrictions on home building and allowed for more housing starts, meaning more homes built every year, so that the people entering the home buying market didn't walk into such a demand issue. You know, there's like a huge supply and demand problem surrounding that. So, I mean, I could go on, I'll digress from this, I could go on and on about this, but you know, nobody's been given any favors when it comes to monetary policy and how it affects housing and affordability in the United States, and specifically in high-cost metropolitan areas like the Bay Area of California.
Yeah. And, you know, it's like, we don't want them, you know, building houses that fall down tomorrow afternoon or any of that kind of stuff, but they've added so many layers on top where they have to this and they have to that.
If you want to build a house in Pleasanton, you know how much you're going to pay in impact fees?
A crap ton.
$120,000.
Yeah, per house.
In impact fees. That means you're adding a house to a society, and so there's impact fees because now you've got, you know, one more family with children going to school, one more family where police and firefighters have to be able to, you know, first responders have to be able to show up, and so they need to account for that, and so they charge impact fees. So they figure, let's get them when they're building it. And so it's not worth it. Like, it's cheaper for you just to buy a house than it would be to buy the land and build the house. Also, it's not a very accessible thing to do. But impact fees, that's one way. Another way is that, like, there are so many, you know, there's such a focus on environmental friendliness in California that all these laws have been passed and restrictions have been passed, which is great for the environment, and it's great that we are looking at these things. But when you look at it, who can afford to kind of pass these tests? It's people with deep pockets like builders. They can build 120, 1,000 homes at a time. And even them, I mean, they've got a scale to make the numbers work, but like, by no means have they allowed anybody that wants to build like one house to do it in an affordable way. No. And that should be doable. Like, if you move to Montana, and I'm not saying that they're the model of perfection, but I like Montana. I've got family in Montana. I think it's a great place to live and work and visit. If you want to go build a house in Montana,
freaking cold.
It's cold. There's 2 seasons, winter and July. But outside of that, if you want to build that, it's super easy. You don't have to jump through all this red tape. They're not going to force you to add solar to your house, which is a very expensive thing to do, which you have to do to every new home in California.
Be that. I mean, the technology.
You're not paying $100,000 in impact fees.
Yeah,
it's outrageous.
Yeah.
So they can build homes. It's not a big problem. Now, they don't have the population crunch that California does, because there's more people in San Francisco than there is in the entire state of Montana. But that's a good example of like how we should deregulate and unrestrict the ability for people to build houses.
Well, it's always, you know, it's the pendulum. We always swing too far one way and then we swing too far the other. And you know me, I like being in the middle because that's where business gets done, is in the middle. And, you know, it's like, do I want foundations bolted to the, you know...
no, that's important.
Yeah,
like,
you know, I do.
You know, earthquake...
and
yes,
I mean, there's a lot of stuff like that makes a lot of sense that they have. But then, they have crazy stuff on top of it.
There's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just had a conversation the other day about the schools. And basically, here in Concord, they don't really require the parents to, like, make extra donations to the school.
How do you require a donation? That doesn't sound like a donation. That sounds like a bill.
Yeah, pretty much. But they do that in Walnut Creek, and they do that in Pleasant Hill. And
wait, they require donations?
Yeah. They have to call it a donation. It's like $750 a kid.
Per year?
to have your kid go to the school, and that's what pays for all the ancillary stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I just learned that the other day, and it's stuff you don't know when you don't have kids. And
I'm
it's
going
like,
to tell my pastor when I go to church on Sunday that he can start requiring donations.
yeah, exactly.
It has to be based on household size, and they can't charge more than a certain amount per family, but they're going to require it soon. Just wait.
Yeah, well, exactly. And it's like, well, no. I mean, how does that work when you get to an area that's not as affluent? The kids get a crappier education.
Like, how does it work when people don't have the money to pay for a required donation?
Exactly.
I don't know. It's a great question.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, well, wait a minute.
Somebody sues somebody and says it's a donation, so you can't make it required, and you should not do this.
And it's like, okay, well, clearly we're doing something wrong way back here that the school has to ask for a donation.
That's required.
That's required. Or your test scores don't end up like they do in the other two towns.
No, that's a really good point.
You know? It's like, wait a minute.
If you put Valerie and I in charge of government, we would spend half the time drinking beer and the other half the time solving really important issues like this.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know.
So you'd be a little bit mad that we were drunk some of the time, but you'd be really happy that some stupid things like required donations would be gone.
Yeah, we would not be requiring...
So vote for us. They should put us on the recall ballot.
You, me, and the porn star.
Hey, we can find her a job.
Oh, there's a position in our... That was a softball.
Oh, yeah, that was. All right, well, we're going to keep drinking, but I think we probably talked about all we need to discuss today.
Yeah, because it's just going to go off the rails now.
Yeah. We started talking about
porn stars
to our administration, so there you go.
There you
all
go.
Right, cheers. Thanks for watching. Visit Epidemic Ales. We love them. They're a great brewery, and we'll see you next time.
Well, if you want to, finance a house, call him. If you want to buy a house, call me.
Important. And please like and subscribe to our channel. That helps a lot. It helps get the word out, and we appreciate that you took the time to watch this video.
Oh, wait. I have one more question.
Okay.
Who has the best hot wings in Contra Costa County? Put it down in the comments.
Comment below. Yeah, we want to know. We'll do a hot wing episode. Hot wings and houses.
Oh, yeah. It's coming.